Hello guys. So, good morning. Hello. So, it's Black Saturday today, April 11, and I miss you guys. So, I'm praying about you. I'm thinking about you today. So, I hope that you are well and get your notes. Mag-aral tayo today ng automation in hematology. So, I want to congratulate you guys. So, tapos na natin yung mga basics of hematology and now we're heading on to your automation. And class automation is very much asked in the board exam. So kailangan ko i-discuss to. Ayokong malugi kayo or I don't want your hematology to fall short just because we have COVID. So guys, konting tiis-tiis lang. So get your notes. And class automation is also found in your lab. So pag dinodrawing nyo, you're trying to think about these things. So let's start with your automations. Of course, class, ang hirap gumawa ng hemoglobin, hematocrit na manual. You're going to spin it, ganyan. Tapos magka-crack pa, masusugat ka, ganyan. If you want to use your WBC count, hemocytometer all the time, diba? It's very burdensome for the medical technologies, especially if a lot of patients are in queue, maraming nakapila. So, analyzers or automated analyzers for CBC counting is very valuable for us, ganyan. But class, we just don't aspirate it, ipapasak natin yung blood, tapos wala na, hayaan na natin. But our goal there is we need to understand na sometimes there will be flagging. Flag, ibig sabihin, there will be abnormal results, ganyan. And it is in the hands of the medical technologists to assess if we need to, if the results are correct, ganyan, baka may mali. So, yun yung mahalaga dito. So, aside from knowing the principles of our two common analyzers is you need to know kung baka may error, ganyan. And you have to check it with your peripheral blood smear, ganyan. So guys, kahit meron na tayong CBC, so gumagawa pa rin ang medtech ng smear just to check it out. Ganyan. Sometimes I don't make a smear anymore kasi okay naman yung result. But sometimes, especially if the result is abnormal, I need to make a smear. Ganyan yun. So class, there are just three parts of your analyzer. Very easy. Hydraulics, pneumatics, and electrical system. So we just want you to be aware of it. Ma'am, pag nasira pa yung analyzer, inaayos natin. Class, actually, there's a technician for that. But as a medtech, we need to know how to troubleshoot. Example, the use of printers, ganyan, or the use of your phones. Isn't it that pag naglalag na, nire-restart mo na, ganyan, or just i-check mo kung anong mga kaya mong ayusin, something like that. So, ganun, we troubleshoot. So, as much as possible is you have to know the tubes, ganyan, or you have to know kung may bara, ganyan, so that you can clean it out, mga ganun. So, class, your analyzer can be as small as this. Can be a size of 2 puppies. Ganyan. So, kinuha nitong image nating attention ko kasi may puppy, ganyan. So, ang weird kasi ba't may puppy? But I think this is just to say that the analyzer can be as small as this one. Ganyan. Pwedeng tabletop. So next, so let's just define it. So what are hydraulics? So your hydraulics, so I found a picture, something like this. So may mga aspiration, dispenser, dilutor, mixing chamber, aperture baths, ganyan. So may ganyang laman ang CBC natin. Hemoglobinometer. So class, how is hemoglobin measured in our machine? It is through cyan methemoglobin. Isn't it that photometer yun? Ibig sabihin, we measure it at 545 nanometers, di ba? Diba? And class cyan hemoglobin is the reference method for hemoglobin. It's very reliable. So, yun rin yung ginagawa sa makina. So, kailangan may hemoglobinometer or dapat may reader ng ilaw. Ganyan. In 545 nanometers. So, yun yung mga hydraulics. You don't need to memorize. I just want you to get to know it. So pneumatics. So when we say pneumatics, vacuums and pressure. So para mag-move yung blood from one place to another, kailangan may vacuum, ganyan, para mag-move siya. Next, electrical system. Yan. So for reading, for processing your data. So class, there are two classic methods for counting. Ito ang tinatanong sa board exam, madalas to. So first one is we have electric impedance or Coulter principle. Electric impedance or Coulter principle. So if you will see a Coulter counter model, ganun, Coulter, so dapat automatic ang nasa isip mo ng principle niya, electrical impedance or electrical resistance. Later, I'll explain it. And class, meron tayong, so pag sinabi natin electrical impedance, it's more on electricity, field, voltages, ganyan. So, optical detection, light scattering, ito, ilaw. Yan. So, class, in this image, and so your cells passes through an electric field. So, may positive and negative electrode. Yan. So, and for optical detection or light scattering, so we need light or we need a laser. So, your cells will pass through a chamber, tapos light will pass through it. Ganyan. So, depending on the light, kung ano ang characteristic ng cell na yun. So, let's start with electrical impedance or Coulter principle. So, pag sinabi ng Coulter, dapat automatic ka na electrical impedance. So, first one is blood is diluted in an isotonic solution and drawn through an aperture. So, dapat ang blood, it's in an isotonic solution. So, there should be electrodes, electrons, and ano na yung electrons negatively charged, neutrons, and yung positively charged. Hindi ko maalala kung ano yung positively charged, guys. So, it's in an isotonic solution. Class, the key here is, sabi ko nga sa inyo, in electric impedance, there is an electric field. Yan, may electric field. So, ibig sabihin may kuryente. So, ibig sabihin, class, pag tinouch mo yun, pwede ka mag-ground. May kuryente. And class, the key here is cells are poor conductors of electricity. So, ibig sabihin, pag may electric charge, tapos may dumaan na cell, class, so, if this is the electric charge, yan, yung electric field. So, pag may dumaan na cell, class, may dumaan na cell, magsa-stop, 'di ba? There is resistance or there is impedance. May magsa-stop yung electric field. I mean, sabihin parang there's a pause on the electric field, ganyan. So the principle is detection and measurement of resistance produced by the blood cell as it passes through an electric field. Dapat, 'di ba? Pag dumaan yung gets ko na. I mean, alam ko na yung term. So, when the blood cell will pass through the electric field, there is a disturbance or there is a impedance or resistance, disturbance in the electric field. So, kunwari, may signal. Ganyan, may signal. Tapos, may humarang dun sa signal. So, there is a resistance or impedance. Ganyan. So, class, anong effect nun, ma'am? I think I found a perfect GIF. So, look at the PowerPoint. So, as the red blood cell pass through the electric field, there's may disturbance, ganyan. So, na-detect nung makina kasi na-disturb yung electric field nila. So, what does that mean? The number of voltage pulse, so the number of the red that gumanon. So, the number of times that it had created a pulse will relate to the number of cells. So, kung ilan yung dumaan doon, so that will be the number of cells. Parang hindi na sumasabay yung video. And guys, for the amplitude height or size of the pulse, so gaano kalaki yung pulse, so ibig sabihin guys, the one which passed through, hindi ata kinakaya nung Zoom pag may GIF. So, the number of voltage pulses will be the number of cells. Please, wag niyo kakalimutan yan pag sa Coulter counter. And the size of the pulse. Iba yung number of pulse, number of cells. The size, the height, and the amplitude of the pulse is the cell volume, how big it is. So, look at this image. So, leukocytes tend to have, and giant platelets tend to have higher pulse. So, parang dangerous to, sabi niya, leukocyte and giant platelets. So, ibig sabihin, the machine cannot detect the specific um cell based on what it looks like. It will just depends on its size, on its cell volume, ganyan. So if you have clots, micro clots in your EDTA tube, di ba EDTA class ang ginagamit sa CBC, wag kakalimutan yun na. So, ibig sabihin kung may mga microclots ka dun sa tube mo, pwede niyang i-read yun na leukocyte, di ba? So, dapat chine-check natin. Yan. So, yun, may giant platelets pala. Di ibig sabihin, tataas class yung WBC because giant platelets is not read as platelets. So, it can be read as leukocytes. Ganon. So, yun yung problema doon. Galing, no, class? So, your role is to double check. Yeah. So, if there are giant platelets in the smear, you have to correct it. Correct the number of WBCs. Class, what else? Nucleated RBCs. Nucleated RBCs can be read as leukocytes. Yan. So, problema, pwedeng tumaas rin yung leukocytes due to the presence of nucleated RBCs. Do you get me? Ganyan. Because this machine is just depending on cell volume. So, how large? So, it's not detecting the appearance based on granules, ganyan. So, yun yung problema dito. So basically, class, electrical impedance or electrical Coulter counter measures the resistance of electricity that is created by the cell as it passes through the aperture. So aperture yung daanan. So the number of pulses will pertain to the number of cells, and the amplitude or the height of the pulse will pertain to the cell volume, ganyan. So, kunyari, platelet, di small lang yung size of pulse. Excuse me. Yan. So, next na tayo, class. So, light scattering or hydrodynamic focusing. So, tapos na tayo sa electric field. Itabi nyo na sa isip nyo yan. Now, we're talking about light. So, what is the type of light that we use? Laser, L-A-S-E-R. So, laser is actually an acronym. Pakisearch nga kung anong ibig sabihin niya. So, as each cell passes through the sensing zone of the flow cell, it scatters light. A photodetector detects the scattered light and converts it to an electrical pulse. Ayan. So, tingnan nga natin. So, the laser light will be passed through the cell. Ayan. So, apparently, class, cell does not absorb light, di ba? So, it scatters light. So, tingnan nga natin to. So, it can scatter the light. So, pwedeng forward low angle, pwedeng right angle, high angle. Ganyan. So first one is right or high angle scatter. So the right or high angle scatter will detect the internal structure. So I think this is more reliable kasi it can now see the inside of the cell. And next, guys, is forward or low angle light scatter. So it will detect the size and the volume. So forward, pag ang light, padiretso lang, ang punta niya, it will detect the size and the volume. Yan. So how big it is. For the high angle or right scatter, it wants to detect the internal structure. So yung ganun yung maitatanong ko So number of pulse, amplitude of the pulse, ito, what does the right angle scatter detect? What does the forward low angle scatter detect? Yeah. And the number of pulses here, so the number of pulse rin will pertain to your cell count. Yeah. So class, in your analyzers, mataas yung dilution. WBCs are diluted as high as 1:500 and RBCs is 1:50,000. Grabe, so konti na lang talaga. Maybe lang nung makina. And class, they use differential counts through depicting it through histograms and cytograms. So I'll discuss this one. So histograms, so their class may graph sa 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 makina. So it will show you ito mga curvatures. So depending on the cell volume. So kung saan may curve, doon yung mataas na cell volume. Tingnan natin. So parang ganyan, no? May mga parang ano sa akin to? Parang nostalgic. Ganito yung makina namin yung intern ako class. Yan. So sabihin natin, so pag may tumaas, 'di ba femtoliter parang MCV, it pertains to volume. Ang mga yung graph na tumataas between the 35 to 90 femtoliter, those are lymphocytes. 90 to 160 femtoliters are monocytes, myelocytes, and blasts. Class in cases of leukemia, ganyan. So, expect mo yung pasyente tataas dito sa 90 to 160 mark yung histogram niya. So, example, the patient is having chemotherapy, mawawala yung mga WBCs niya, bababa yung graph. Next, granulocytes is 160 to 450. So, medyo malalaki ang mga granulocytes. Yan. Plus, di ba yung normal natin sa MCV na the RBC, it's 80 to 100. So, malaki ang granulocyte. Its volume can be as high as 160 to 450. Mataas to Like double the size. Mas lalo na pag siguro blasts. Yan. So, ganun. So, sinabi ko nga, yan, 90 to 160. So, itong nasa gitnang to, it can pertain to your lymphocytes. Yan, 160 onwards, granulocytes. RBC histogram, its range is up to 36 to 360. Malaki yung range niya. So, class, ito, gusto ko lang ilagay, kino-compute sa makina ito, MCV, RDW, hematocrit. Kasi walang centrifuge sa loob ng makina. We just compute it. So, class RBC is MCV times RBC count. Yan. Class RDW is also computed. Guys, take note, RDW or red blood cell distribution width is a measure of anisocytosis, is the measure of the degree of anisocytosis. If the RDW is high, meaning there is a dimorphic population. Ibig sabihin, class, halo-halo yung sizes ng red blood cells mo, ha? So, RDW is the measure of the degree of anisocytosis. So, the higher the RDW, the worse the anisocytosis. Iba-iba talaga yung sizes ng red blood cells, no? Ganyan. So, pag mababa siya, yan, there's no dimorphism. Yan. Platelet histogram. So, ang liit lang ng platelet, class. So, its volume is 2 to 20 femtoliters. Yan. MPV. So, mean platelet volume. 6.5 to 12 femtoliters. Yan. And platelet distribution width. So, they are both computed. Ito, class, ang hirap nito. Scattergram, cytogram, or dot plot. And may ganyan rin. So, class, we have cytochemical stains. I think it's in your notes. Class, can I just give you heads up? So, basahin niyo na lang. Hindi ko masyadong ilalabas ang cytochemical stains. Pero I want you to remember that when we talk about peroxidase, mataas ang peroxidase sa mga promyelocytes. Promyelocytes, yan. Because peroxidase is found in the primary granules or azuroferric granules peroxidase. Ganyan. Next, ito, esterases. Esterases are very much positive to monocytes. specific and non-specific esterase monocytes. Huwag niyo kalimutan yun. So, peroxidase are found on cells which have primary granules, specifically promyelocytes, ganun, mga neutrophils, kasi masyado mataas. Yan. Class. So, hemoglobin. How is hemoglobin measured in the machine? It's through cyanide hemoglobin. Therefore, anong reagent ang nasa makina? Anong reagent? Ha? Sagutin niyo yan. Hematocrit, it's only calculated MCV times red blood cell count. Indices are also calculated by the machine. Ito, sources of errors. Yan, sources of errors, class. I want you to memorize this one. What can be the sources of error? So, example, increase ng WBC. Ano ba yung mga ka-size niya? Ito, I told you a while ago. Platelet clumping or giant platelets, nucleated red blood cells. Unlysed red blood cells. Heparin apparently can increase the use of heparin. Hindi naman tayo class nag-heparin sa CBC, di ba? Ang heparin ginagamit siya sa osmotic fragility test. Spurious decrease when there is clotting as well. Smudge cells. Smudge cells is found among patients with chronic lymphoid leukemia. So, pag smudge cells kasi, class, these are lymphocytes na madaling masira, very fragile. So, nasisira sila. So, bababa talaga yung, WBC count mo. Yan. Ito class, uremia plus immunosuppressants. So, when you're having, your immunosuppressants plus usually attacks your lymphocytes. RBCs, class, giant platelets. Okay. I stand corrected. Pag giant platelets, class, it pertains more to red blood cell. High WBC count can affect the amount of your red blood cell. Decrease hemolysis. Microcytic red blood cells, autoagglutination. Hemoglobin. What are the chances that it can increase? Carboxyhemoglobin. Ito, hemolysis. If you have autoimmune hemolytic anemia in vitro, high WBC count class can affect RBCs and hemoglobin. Ito, kasi class, di ba, hemoglobin is measured through a photometer or spectrophotometer, di ba? So, turbidity increases the measurement of hemoglobin. So, in cases of lipemia, hyperbilirubinemia, so may excess na pigment. So, it can erroneously increase your hemoglobin. Clotting can decrease your hemoglobin. Self-hemoglobin can decrease. Hematocrit, automated. Computed naman siya eh. So, eto class, sa platelets tayo. Cryoglobulin, cryofibrinogen, hemolysis, microcytic, too small of red blood cells, red cells inclusion, like kunyari, baka Howell Jolly body, Heinz body, can spuriously increase your platelets. Example, white cell fragments. Yung mga natanggal, remnants of WBCs can be detected as platelets. What can decrease your platelets if you have giant platelets, platelet clumping, and platelet satelitosis? It can erroneously decrease your platelets. That's the end of Hema 1 class. So, congratulations. So, I want you to study well, and I want to see you soon, okay? Kaya, keep safe, guys. So, stop recording. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.